Truthfully, Grammarly wouldn't even need to have an editor in most cases. I wouldn't think. Like
I just think it. I guess what I'm saying is like in a day and age where everybody just wants to have a platform, and this is our platform, and this is our SaaS product, and you come to us for everything. They're like not a. They built their whole business on top of other people's experiences by not being afraid to be contextual.
Well, I don't think.
I just think it's so powerful.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I don't think you can actually overstate that because.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, most businesses pretend that everyone wants to come to them.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Everyone's already spending all their time everywhere else.
Yes.
So if your business has any way of actually meeting them where they're already at, and the same goes like, heck, even look at shopping now, right? Like people are going to where other people are rather than bringing them to the store. It's the same kind of idea.
Exactly.
Welcome to The Experience, brought to you by Weave.com, a show that explores what it takes to compete on customer experience and build an online company that can last decades. As always, thanks for being a supporter of the show.
For today's show, I brought along Grammarly and Clayton, of course, our resident bartender.
Only through a necessity, yeah.
He made the drink for today's show, which I think is an awesome prank. I sent him a little bit about the show.
You selected the drink, so you got to tell us why you selected it.
So Grammarly to me is a lightweight kind of just someone that's always kind of by your side, like a butler almost, when you're typing in Gmail, when you're typing into Google Doc, whatever you're doing.
Makes you look better.
Always makes you look, it's just right there by your side. So this drink is called an Old Pal.
All right, I like it. It's also a very classic drink. I mean, this is like one of the staple, like it's like a Negroni of sorts. So
yeah, Negroni, yeah. So maybe break down the drink a little bit.
So this is it's like I would say, here's a little drink tangent for us, if we will. I think one is really when you finally feel like you know what like more than 2 drinks are. When you have like even a deck of cards in your brain of 5 drinks, that's a pretty cool establishment. Like you could go to a bar, you know what to order. So the secret though is that really most drinks actually boil down to those like 5 drinks.
Right.
So Negroni is one of those classic drinks, and this Old Pal you picked is an interesting little riff on it. So yeah, this is a rye one because you and I like.
Well, yeah, because most Negronis are made with gin. This is made with whiskey, which is rye whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
So I'm excited to hear. How about Grammarly because I know it from just like general experience as a casual user, and over time I've had a paid account. Yeah. And it's been interesting from afar to see them change and grow. So and you told me you're pretty excited about it, so I'm excited to hear about what you've uncovered.
So everybody sit back, relax. This show's going to be good today. I have always really liked Grammarly as a product, and most products that I use, I kind of get a little like FBI-y where I'm like digging in, who built it, when did it start? I didn't really do that with this one. I was just like, I just downloaded it, started using it a couple of years ago, and I just loved it. But anyway, let me just quickly rifle through some basics about the company.
All right.
And then we'll go into some detail. So obviously it's Grammarly. If you're not familiar with Grammarly, it essentially attaches to a Gmail, a Chrome extension, Gmail extension. They even have a web editor. And as you're typing in your Google Docs or you're typing an email, it'll essentially help you with your grammar. But so much more than that, it does a lot of like tone things. It picks up different tone detection. Just tons of stuff that this thing does. Even plagiarism stuff it can check.
Oh, so interesting. Oh, okay.
There's a lot of stuff this thing can do, and it's kind of an odd to just something simple and building on top of something simple and building and like just how powerful something so simple can be.
Or getting like really a core thing like that right. Because what's interesting is, so it is like, it does check your grammar like you said, but so much more. Like this is building on something that's been around. The basic like dumb version of this has been around for a long time, and they've been working on taking it to a next level. Right?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you think about Word or something, like I guess you always could like right click when something's red underneath it and you adjust it. This is but this is all more powerful.
Different.
Okay, so it's founded in April of 2009.
Wow.
Whoa. So this is 10 years old. Actually, longer than 10 years, almost 11 years old.
That's interesting.
Okay. 3 co-founders.
All right.
They're all from Ukraine. Their names are Alex, Dimitro, and Max. I am not going to attempt to say their last names because I think I'll just butcher them.
Yeah.
Interesting. They also have a CEO named Brad Hoover that came in a couple years later, which I'll explain here in a second. To date, they've had $200 million in funding. Their first round was $90 million in 2019.
Whoa! Oh, so 10 years. Just
almost. Yep. And then their last round was 100. They've had 2 rounds. So their last round was $110 million for
in
2019.
the same year.
No. 2 years later. So
Oh, you said 17.
Sorry,
Oh,
yeah,
right,
2017,
okay.
90,
Okay.
110 million in 19. At
All
that
right.
point, their valuation was $1 billion. 250 to 500 employees. Revenue, I cannot find it anywhere. I know is like I don't know, like 2000. Jeez.
Is that like a count or
2011, they were doing like 10 million. So I mean, if you're raising
Oh.
that kind of money, you're doing some serious.
I know
revenue.
you'll dig into this, but what's interesting with that funding bit is just anecdotally, it feels like it's the last few years they've actually been charging. Like,
Okay, this is why I'm so happy about this episode. This whole episode and this whole brand, this whole company, just makes my heart happy.
okay,
So, their pricing strategy is freemium, which I guess is more of a customer acquisition strategy. But they have freemium, and then they have one paying plan, which is monthly, quarterly, and they also have a business plan you can get into.
yeah, we've been on that.
I also found this interesting. Their downloads, like iTunes, Google Play, because you have to download their Chrome extensions and things like that. They had over 1 million last month, which I found out,
In
which
a
is kind of
month.
cool.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
it's down 12% though, so that's interesting.
So let me ask you a question real quick before you go on. So 2009, I don't remember seeing these cats before like 4 or 5 years ago at most. What were they during that time? Like, what were they the first half of their life? Were they just out there and they just weren't as well known, or were they doing like in a smaller space, like just doing? So I guess I'm curious of it. Were they building the tech and then they later productized it, or have they been having a product like a Gmail plugin or something for like or Chrome extension for a long ass time?
So this is where I thought about this too, because I was kind of mind blown when I realized how long they've been around. So when I say 2009, you're kind of like, yeah, but it's like, no, 10 years, 10, 11 years, like that's a long time in the internet. And so personally, this is what I believe. They started out in like universities and in the academic space,
Okay.
like EDU space, and they were trying to kind of hit this stride.
That's what they were trying to sell to.
Yeah, and then they kind of made an adjustment, I guess, more of a shift to people they were going after.
Yeah.
I'm going to break down a little bit kind of how they got there. It's actually pretty fascinating, and the reason why this brand and the whole experience, and we're going to go into the experience of the product and everything like that. But what I really want to pull from this episode for everyone listening is just, I talk a lot about just funding, right? And I kind of talk, I'm not super excited about it because I feel like it kind of pushes brands in certain ways.
Yeah, it's a whole different force of factor.
Yeah, it forces things that shouldn't be there. These guys did it the right way. They stuck around. They did it. They had a profitable business. They were bootstrapped. They had a team. They had customers. And then their first raise was 90 million, and it was a Series A. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they had all their cards on the table. They're sitting across the desk being like, hey, you know, we have all the cards in our hands to do what we want.
So a lot of leverage. And maybe you'll tell me if you wait on this, if you're going to dive into it later, but that money, I'm guessing, is just like to scale. They're like looking to grow the company now. They've kind of found their...
Yeah, so if you think about it, so one of the things that I found that was super interesting, and I even thought about as I was thinking about their growth strategy, I guess, is, obviously, they found a lot of success when they moved to Chrome and Gmail, where people are using Google Docs and Microsoft Office and things like that. But if you think about the way that we communicate, all the social networks, the text messaging apps, the messaging platforms, and needing to kind of have that on there, they're getting a lot of people that are segueing outside of just typing on your laptop.
Okay, so sorry, let me make sure I understand that properly, because I'm familiar with like the whole document editing part, right? Like you're writing something you want to sound intelligent.
Yep.
If you happen to be an email client that they support, that's a huge vehicle for them, because you don't want to sound like an idiot. You want to sound smarter and have them on your side when you're communication. Are you saying in addition to that they have like something that can help you when you're texting now?
Yeah, they're gonna move. I think that's where they're going. I think texting, chat apps, messaging apps.
But they don't have it as of yet.
I don't believe so.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
But I think that's where they're going.
Okay.
So they need to obviously support that. Because one of the other things too that I'm going to dive into with the experience is you can see right now, if you go to Grammarly, sign up, get into the account center, and you're kind of they had a web-based editor.
Yeah.
And it was okay. And I was going to talk a lot of shit on it actually, but then what happened was it was this disjointed experience inside of their platform where I was going between my billing account versus the editor, and it was just it looked all different.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there was some button I pushed that took me over to the new editing experience, and I went into this new onboarding. And so you can see they're slowly rolling it out, but the new web editor. So I think the web editor and plus all the chat thing is where they're moving next.
Well, frankly, I don't want to derail it. Like, someone should come and circle back to is they're a good example of a product that meets people where they already live.
Yes,
like their web editor should be a secondary concern for them.
Yes,
and then I would say too, like just here's the way I'm thinking of them so far, and you can tell me if I'm on the right path. I think of them like the reason they exist. I'd love for you if you know anything about the vision of why they started this company to hear about it. But for me, it's like they basically the reason I'd hire those guys and have is not just because I mean, like it's one thing to get a spelling correctly too, right? But it's those other things about actually helping you sound appropriate. Not just there's like correctness and there's appropriateness, and it feels like that's where like I would pay to have them on my side because I want to be. I just want to come across appropriate. So it's somewhat intelligence, but it's also like that tone thing you talked about.
Yeah, so they have the appropriate, right? Where your grammar and just like spell check and all that other stuff, which and it's synonyms and it's you know, being more confident in your writing. So the tone detector gives off like at the end of your email, it'll say like this email sounds friendly. This email sounds confident. This email sounds abrasive. Like that's it's smart, actually and it's pretty damn good. Like it's pretty spot on.
I mean, I don't know if you found this out or not. It'd be super interesting to find out if they've always had that in their DNA, that idea, or if that kind of came in more recently, because it's a super smart.
It's very recent, extremely recent. Okay. And on top of that, I did throw their stuff into some other spell checker things, and so they didn't pick up a lot of things. I think they have a lot of great like AI and machine learning and all this stuff, fancy words, right, for this stuff. I think they're still learning how to like still. It's a tricky balance, right? Like they're really good. even 99% of their stuff's really good. I will say there's a couple things where they miss some of that human element, or they're missing the way I'm saying the word, and so they're trying to correct me even though I know it's right. So, but that only happens every so often. So,
but before just real quick, did you happen to find anything out about like what these guys, why they started this business, like what fires them up at night in their vision?
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of get you. I'm gonna get into that.
Gotcha.
If you just let me go, man.
Dude, drink your drink and just be nice.
So what's cool about these guys actually is the reason why in the show I think why we try to bring out some of the company details gives you context about like just the why. Like why are these guys doing this?
Yeah.
So the founding team all worked together previously. It was called My Dropbox, which is a plagiarism checker. And they sold it. Which is funny, it was called My Dropbox, but it was like we're talking like 2005 or something.
What's the math on that?
I don't know. So anyway, way ahead of their times. So the vision of Grammarly was to improve communication. That's kind of what they say. They chose to start really small, and they only focused on improving grammar at the beginning. Hence, it was named Grammarly.
Okay.
So his big thing and I'm gonna say his. There's a couple of them, but Max kind of seemed like he was the kind of the CEO to start. Mm-hmm. They brought in a CEO a couple of years later because they needed someone to kind of take them to the next level. Mm-hmm. So he talked a lot about how, and this is where I could get so excited about these guys because they just feel like they're thinking so in line with how we think. Mm-hmm. Not that it's right or wrong, it's just the way we think. When he talked about his vision, he was like, look, we dream big and we think big, and the way we think about a vision, which I know, and he's like, I know a lot of people talk about, oh, cool, you got a great vision, whatever. He was saying, like, we looked out and we said, okay, if we could create a world with this, what would we want this to look like? Rather than what most people do is they say, let's look at the market, let's fill some gaps, let's see what the trends are, let's ride the wave. That's kind of what people are doing now, right? Like, these guys were like, no, wait, we're going to figure out where we want to be, and we're gonna work our way inch by inch to that vision. So I thought that was pretty powerful, and I think that's the way we kind of think too.
Yeah, I mean, also they've got, and to that end, like they're one of those companies. Also, they bit off a really complicated problem.
Yeah, for sure.
The reason that market hasn't moved in decades, right? Like you look at like you said, what Word's been doing forever, right? That's really complicated. The nuances of that. So.
Yep. So let me just read a couple things. I grabbed a couple things off online that I just thought were super powerful. So that's the vision stuff. And then we'll get into the experience. So a little bit more of the background. By 2011, Grammarly, which had early on tailored its technology to educational institutions, counted 300,000 students as registered users and more than 250 universities as customers. In the next year, it was reportedly pulling in $10 million in revenue annually. By 2013, Grammarly achieved 2,300% revenue growth from 2009, with over 3 million registered users. In 2015, Grammarly hit 1 million daily active users At the time of its first funding in May of 2017, the figure was 6.9 million users. Now they're at more than 20 million active users as of today. So I thought that was just like the growth and everything's pretty cool. And also, by the way, it wasn't until October 2018 that Grammarly announced support for Google Docs.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Isn't that crazy? Because
you would have thought that was
I could be off, but I'm pretty sure this is how I was introduced to Grammarly, which I'm going to dive into some of their experience stuff here in a second with this. This is going to be my segue into this. The first time I was introduced to Grammarly, I got an email from, I'm pretty sure, I got an email from Gmail saying, take Gmail to the next level with Grammarly. And it was like this partnership email. And like, I guess that's where like I'll segue into the experience, right? So when we break down an experience of a brand, we talk about branding, onboarding, product marketing. We look at the whole experience across the board. And in my mind, their branding to me was what they did so well was that whole authority by association. So I'm getting this thing from Gmail. So I'm instantly like, okay, if Gmail's recommending, and even if they didn't recommend it, right? If it just says, hey, we work with Microsoft Office, we work with Docs, we work with Gmail.
You can't underplay that. Like, yeah, had you just bumped into them like in the Chrome store or something, you'd be like, yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's a big difference. Yeah.
Yep. But it's just the way it came across.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was so. And again, I'm trying to remember if it really did come from Gmail because that was, I mean, not a lot of people that can pull it off. So I'd actually be curious how they pulled that off.
Yeah.
But sorry, just a few more things. So I just wanted to call out. And actually, I'll wait for these towards the end. This is some cool stuff. So let's walk through experience. So real quick, I know you've used Grammarly. So let me ask you real quick. When you think of Grammarly, what do you think about? I mean, what sticks out to you in terms of the experience, the brand, the product, the marketing,
I think I had some exposure. I mean, I wasn't a big Gmail user like inside the web browser, right? I would use it through other tools. So I didn't really have that experience with it. I think I used it in the context of, I was familiar with it and had some use of it before we started using it like really in depth in some business work. But really the time it really hit is when we were using it, at our companies. And at that point, they didn't have it in Google Docs yet. So it was that I could bring it into, now you're making me wonder. Long story short, I remember getting value out of it through writing when I had to write certain things, and I can't remember if that was Google Docs or something else. And I think I was whatever tools we were using at the time. I could use it in email. So, what was your question? Like my experience with them, or my impression of them?
I was just curious if there's anything that stuck out. So obviously, I went back through, and kind of I've got a bunch of notes. I'm just curious from you, just gut check for people that are listening. Maybe people aren't
what's my impression of them?
Yeah, do you think it's valuable? Like, I guess.
Yes, definitely found it valuable because again, it was a level above what I'd seen before.
And the reason why I'm asking you is because I know you're not necessarily like a power user of Grammarly. I'm like myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking.
I think what it was is because here's the context for it. If I look at other grammar tools, they may have done the thing, but they're kind of like computer dumb, right?
Yeah.
Meaning they could do some stuff, but they were just like, there was edges to it. It wasn't very smart. Grammarly had another sophistication to it that I actually trusted. And the trust is a really key part of that.
Yeah.
Because it goes back again to how I'm presenting myself to other people. So if you're in the room over my shoulder telling me to change this or that, if I think you actually know your stuff,
right,
I'm going to trust you, right? If I don't, I'm like, thanks a lot, Jay. So they had established that trust. And maybe it's just because of the kind of recommendations they made. And then the other piece too that I would say is they did a good job in the implementation where I could actually easily take advantage of the things they recommended. Like, they integrated in such a way it was easy for me to tweak as I went along. So the authoritativeness, authority and trust.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Which I think, Okay, so let me walk through the experience a little bit more. So here's a couple things. So when we walk through this experience, if you're new to the show, we normally look at it like on a holistic approach. So from the second you kind of experience the brand, their social accounts, how they portray themselves, how they come across, what the onboarding experience like, what the product experience like, even the offboarding of the product, and I guess how they kind of lure people in. Kind of look at all those things. I'll break down some of those. And we look at it, I guess, like you're dating someone. So kind of just a relationship that you have with this brand. So again, to start, I had this like authority by association there with Gmail. I'm thinking these guys are good. I loved it the second I used it. The onboarding was super slick. I downloaded it, started working. You could instantly just see this little, almost like, for lack of a better example or analogy, the stupid Microsoft paperclippy guy.
Yeah.
He's in your bottom right corner. It's this little green Grammarly G, and it's spinning, and you can kind of see stuff. And then all of a sudden, it kind of takes over
It's like
your
a flight
writing.
check kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, it takes over your writing, and there's all this red lines. And it's not just like you hover. What I love about it, too, is when you hover over something, you don't have to right-click on it and then do it. It just hover over it, and it's not always just grammar. Like, if you say something like, I think we can go to the store. Like, I know it's a really dumb example. It's like, we can go to the store.
It's simple,
so it's like, it's not just like, it's like,
about
do you want to sound
clarity.
confident?
Yeah,
Here's
yeah.
confidence. Yeah, like, here's clarity. Here's shortening it up. So they're doing a lot more than just that.
So can I ask you a question real quick? So, because I just want to know, like, so in terms of like that whole experience thing, what would you ask me about, like, my perception? You're a long-time user. Did you look at, like, how are they positioning themselves right now? Like, what's that first part of that relationship? Like, how are they currently trying to, like, communicate, like, who they are and why they're important to customers?
It's weird because I came in, I felt like kind of early.
Yeah.
I came in before they had, they had just rolled out the Gmail extension when I came in, and they didn't have Google Docs. They didn't have, I mean, the web editor, I don't even think was released yet.
Yeah.
So, and now coming back 3 or 4 years later, I mean, the other thing too is they have 200 million in funding.
Yeah.
And everyone knows about them. It's different.
Did you happen to look, what is their, like, how do they position themselves now?
Yeah, it's very authoritative. It feels productivity. It just feels utilitarian, right?
Okay.
Like it feels yeah, like they don't feel pushy. They feel like they're just trying to create value. I don't really get I like it. I think it's
Cool.
clean, it's simple, it comes off as approachable.
So must have, and like when we say utilitarian, it's kind of a must have kind of idea.
Yeah.
So did you happen to have a chance to look at their new onboarding, or did you go through that? Or?
Yeah, I did actually.
Okay.
So their onboarding is not necessarily, so, well, I take that back. So one of the other things that I want to touch on with the experience from a product perspective is the onboarding's whatever. I mean, even when you get in the edit experience, it's kind of like your typical, there's a modal that pops up, gives you 3 or 4 different things. Hey, do this, this, and this. But it's not like this, focused onboarding. It's just, they kind of want you to dive into this immersive experience.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say that they do, and maybe it's because of, like you said in the beginning of the show, they go to where people already are. And what they do more than anything is they understand the context of your behavior in that experience. So when I'm in Gmail, my experience is it's lightweight from the macro view. I'm typing my email, I'm writing things out. If I click on something and I want to know a little bit more, and I really want to almost grade what I'm writing, it actually pulls up a modal inside Gmail. It wraps Grammarly's experience inside Gmail. So I don't leave Gmail, but it wraps up this big modal, and it's the same web editor experience you see in Grammarly. But I'm contextually inside Gmail, and it's telling me all types of things in terms of vocabulary, and I mean, there's a lot to it. Plagiarism checker. I mean, there's everything's in there, and I have my fingertips. And I guess that's like the big takeaway is like, if you do have a product like Grammarly, where not only are you, because there's the whole let's market, it's push and pull marketing, right? I'm just gonna go to where people are already hanging out. This is more like we're at where people are hanging out, but we're gonna be dressed in the same way. These guys, we're gonna do the same dances these guys are doing. We're gonna be drinking the same thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
They're just they're blending in, and it doesn't feel like they're taking you away.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just not even the marketing at that point. It's actually the use, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Truthfully, Grammarly wouldn't even need to have an editor in most cases. I wouldn't think.
I guess what I'm saying is in a day and age where everybody just wants to have a platform, and this is our platform, and this is our SaaS product, and you come to us for everything. They're they built their whole business on top of other people's experiences by not being afraid to be contextual.
Well, I
just think it's so powerful.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I don't think you can actually overstate that because
right.
Yeah. I mean, most businesses pretend that everyone wants to come to them.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Everyone's already spending all their time everywhere else.
Yes.
So if your business has any way of actually meeting them where they're already at, and the same goes heck, even look at shopping now, right? People are going to where other people are rather than bringing them to the store. It's the same kind of idea.
Exactly.
So you basically so let me I just want to recap where we've been. We have a company that's been around for a long ass time.
10 years.
They
11 years.
actually were staying afloat and doing something before they really kind of started hitting critical mass in like the last handful of years, and then they capitalized that in the last year or two, or a couple of years, to get the means to really presumably grow it.
Yep.
They now have a pretty big platform that's going far beyond just grammar. They're helping you really just understand how to communicate effectively, clearly, and appropriately.
Yep.
And they work in a variety of contexts. When you first come to them as a new customer, it sounds like they're selling to you that, hey, we basically are something you should have. It's just like a baseline of being like a good like modern communicator online.
Yep.
And they get you in through freemium. You can do pay to get some of these extra features, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, like the tone detector that I'm talking about. It's
okay.
not available in the free. I mean, there's a lot that's not available.
It makes it worth paying. Okay.
But there's also a lot that's available in free.
And then they teach you about the value of those things through onboarding by just having you said
That's
in the
so yeah. That's one of the pieces of feedback that I would have if I am Grammarly is they do a pretty poor job of saying like, hey,
making you aware of what you can
like
do.
like we could help you out here. I'm seeing it a little bit more in Gmail, Google Docs. I don't really see it anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's kind of their MO where they're kind of like we're gonna be on the sideline. Like you're the superstar. We're just here to help. You know what I mean? So, but maybe they'll have all this funding. I mean, but I almost don't feel like I've gotten so much value out of Grammarly, and to be 100% candid and honest, I didn't know that they had the true tone detector. Actually, by the way, in this show, just so you guys know, when we research these companies, this takes a couple hours.
Oh, at least. When you're chatting about it before.
Yeah, we're talking about, we're figuring out the drink. I mean, this is a lot of context and just information gathering to learn all about this. And when I dove into Grammarly, I didn't even realize about the true tone detector. When I saw it, I was like, dude, I would love this.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one piece of feedback, which we'll get to later, that I would love to give to the guys.
So all that sets us up for someone who's in the product and now, like you're describing, is like actively using it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So one of the things that I noticed is I don't know if I say this for later, but I'm going to say it now so don't forget. If I'm Grammarly and I am doing this whole thing where I'm trying to expand where we live, our product lives, right? Outside of Gmail, outside of Google, outside of Microsoft, all this stuff. Chrome, all that. I'm moving into text and chat and message.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great job with the text-based stuff, but we're moving to such a voice-based what's the word?
Communicate. Well,
just like like a lot of people are using voice. Like, and again, it's not night now, but I'm just thinking in the next couple years.
Can you give me an example of what you're imagining?
I'm just thinking like there's just so much. Maybe it's just because we're so close to like the whole industry, but just the trend of voice, Alexa, Google.
But you're saying that becomes not just utilitarian like the Alexa, but actually like me contacting a store through it's like they can recognize voice stuff like natural language kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, like I'm wondering if I just wonder where Grammarly could even go with that, right? Like if someone's talking into a voice, Grammarly can come back and say, "Hey, look, you should." Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea, or maybe it's just. And that was one thing that I thought about, like from a product roadmap, or like just they're so text. That's all, you know what I mean. If you're not reading the text, you're not really getting value.
What their vision was? What was their vision again? Real high.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up, because their vision was to improve communication.
Yeah, I mean that's really broad, but even like the clarity of communication and no, that's it. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, another thing and then like I brought up earlier, just. I think they need to be careful not to forget the human element of. I think that's where they're getting with the tone. I think that's why I introduced that, because you can sound a little robotic, or you can sound no tact. You know what I mean? You can lose some tact in an email if you're not careful.
No doubt. Am I misremembering? I could have sworn the last time I used Grammarly there was some upsell kind of idea for getting like a live people feedback. Yeah. What is that about?
That's there. I've never used it, so I can't really say.
Yeah. But is it trying to cover that gap you're talking about, maybe, or
maybe? I don't know. I haven't.
Do you remember what it is? Okay.
To be honest, it goes back to the whole like they're maybe doing a poor job of like
communicating it,
pushing out some of their other things.
Gotcha. So. Okay, interesting. Have you had any experience with like any problems with it? Like, if they've had to help, if it has their support been like when things go bad, or
Never.
is it
So
never
yeah,
like-
that's actually a great question. Yeah, in terms of interacting with the brand, I've never had to.
or if you
So, I
had
don't
to,
know.
I'm trying to think like I'm just.
But
thinking
I will
of
say, like, their offboarding, if I wanted to cancel my premium
oh,
plan,
okay.
super easy, super slick.
Does
it's
it feel
quick.
like you can bounce back and forth between the free and premium as your life changes and stuff?
Yes, like reactivating the plan, super easy to do. So
Because that's a pretty interesting takeaway right there, right? Like a lot of products don't do that well. Like they don't.
No.
They feel like it's this single line of having.
well,
a
and
customer
like
as
most
opposed to this,
companies,
like,
most
loop.
brands, and most SaaS companies, and this is why we do what we do with Weave, is
Yeah.
they think if they just trick them or hold them on, you know what I mean? Like, don't
Yeah.
let them leave, that they're not going to know any better. But it really just pisses people off. So
Or
when
they
you
don't
can-
appreciate that some people life changes and they're cyclical, right? They're not
Yeah,
just
I mean,
aligned.
yeah,
Yeah,
just-
they might come back.
Yeah, exactly.
The okay, so I had some other questions kind of at high level, but did you have any more that the experience was interesting you want to walk through? Or?
No, I want to. So yeah, like no, we can segue. What a couple things before we kind of end the show is I want to go through. I listened to an interview on Indie Hackers with Max,
Okay.
one of the original guys.
Yeah.
And then just kind of the big takeaway we can do. But go ahead.
No, I think it was more. Let me hear about the match thing.
Okay. So I have a ton of notes here, but I listened to this show on indiehackers.com.
Okay.
So Cortland Allen, he's the guy that started it. He sold Indie Hackers to Stripe. Anyway, whatever. He did an interview with Max. And, you know, it was awesome because it's this bootstrap guy that stuck around for 8 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And then they finally raised, and it's just such a cool story.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, here's a couple things that I gathered from the interview that I thought were super interesting. So obviously the team, they've known each other since 1999. They worked together. They sold a business before. They obviously got the idea from Grammarly from the previous company where they did why do people plagiarize? It's so hard to write down your own thoughts clearly, concisely. So that's where Grammarly kind of came from. Obviously was to improve communication. Their first market was the EDU, academic kind of market. He talked a lot about the whole vision thing that I brought up earlier, where they kind of create this world they want to live in and want to be in. They want to create that rather than looking for a trend or a certain gap. Oh, that's super powerful. And this is pretty cool. It takes a long time to build something significant, so your vision has to be big enough to inspire you. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. So since it was bootstrap, they had to focus on profitability from the beginning. I love that.
it. Yeah.
I love
it's
that.
like, yeah, it should be.
And
litmus for
this is
everyone.
so cool. So, they started selling the product while they were still developing the MVPs. This is very similar to Weave.
Okay.
We started selling Weave before even the MVP was
Yeah,
done.
Yeah.
People couldn't really access it, but we were selling
The core
accounts.
functionality. Yeah.
These guys are doing the same thing. Obviously, they were up front like we were, where they say, hey,
Mhm.
look, the product's not here, or the product's not totally ready,
Mm-hmm.
but you can pay for it, pay up front, whatever, or if you want access later, whatever. Once they launched, it took them less than 6 months to become profitable.
When was the launch?
Pretty cool.
Did he mention?
I think it was 2011, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. So he talked a lot about just like generating pre-sales and
Nice.
just getting hype up. He said the way they did that, by the way, this is actually this is the biggest thing I want to take away from this. They went to a bunch of trade shows, conferences.
This is still when they're in the educational market, right?
Yeah, and they
Okay.
just pitched this everywhere, and they got pre-sales, and they got people to sign up, and they obviously again they gave them the context it wasn't ready, but they got a lot of interest. They took that back, cleaned up the product, all that kind of stuff. On top of that, they also ran a bunch of Google ads that says like, you know, feature this has a feature X, this has feature Y, and the ones that people clicked on more, they use that for like their marketing and like how to promote this and how to position
Was
it.
that them describing their existing feature set in different ways? So it was figuring out like how to describe it, or was it
Yes.
actually deciding their map,
Yes.
like what they wanted to build ahead?
No,
Oh, okay.
the former.
Okay.
That's at least what I got out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously they went and found an external CEO, which I thought was
Did
kind of
they?
interesting.
Okay, so to the beginning of that narrative you're talking about, did you happen to find out this is a really, again, a complicated thing they're trying to build? I would have presumed these guys had come from like some post-grad degrees where they'd been studying like natural language processing kind of stuff or something to like understand how like human language works. Did they just build this thing from scratch? I know they had the plagiarism thing, which is funny they didn't release that in Grammarly until much later. But did they build their whole platform from scratch?
Yeah.
Like, interesting. So
100%.
they started that in 2009. They have a couple years, it sounds like, until they can get something they feel like they can bring to market in 11 or 12. Okay. That's still pretty quick. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right? So anyway, yeah. I mean, that was the only. Yeah. So I mean, I think one thing that I look at when I look at the team, and this is, and not to like just keep coming back to like our team, but like their team is very well rounded.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of this visionary guy. There's a technical guy, and there's a product guy. It's exactly how their team's structured.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have the CEO. But I think it's a good pull through. So just going back to like the value, everything that you can distill down from this show today and Grammarly and the brand and everything that they did. I think when you have a founding team, make sure you guys have similar values, but you all complement each other well. The bootstrapping thing is super powerful. If you can do that right, I'm not against raising money. It's just raising money too early when you don't really need it. Or when it puts the wrong pressure on you.
Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah.
I think these guys have established a market, established a product, established a team, established values, established everything they wanted. So when they raised the money, it was just igniting
they were in
fire.
the best position you could be to raise that money, and it took probably I'm sure a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to that. Leverage.
I love the pre-sale notion. That's super powerful to take away from this. You don't hear that a lot. I mean, from some of the other brands we brought on here.
Well, but let's unpack that for a second. Why is it so important? Because if no one bought.
Yeah,
you're not making anything.
Exactly. Like, I mean, that's just
really,
where you get so into like a hole of like
yeah,
building something people don't want, right? And you're kind of living in this bubble. So, and then obviously, I thought they don't touch on a lot, but they moved from that academic market and EDU market, and they shifted kind of over to this productivity kind of space for businesses, and I think that was
I mean, one that's fresh on my mind is this so we'll come at this later, but Descript, as we know, it's like a company that took something that they built in a totally different market and brought to a different market. They had a transcription tool for a totally different market, and they brought a podcast, and these guys, it makes a lot of sense. They built it for education, they brought it over to like this general purpose,
right?
Okay, so is there anything like those are kind of the good things we've heard, right? There's some business perspective that's good. I think some of the other things you brought up there are good. They're takeaways and like transferable to other businesses are, which I don't think can be overstated, is don't get so hung up on your own thing you're building. Remember where people are already at and meet them where they're at and see how you can deliver value where they're already at. And I would say that's probably a big part of their success.
Yeah.
They also took a broader lens to the problem, meaning that rather than say, we're going to make you more, it's not about grammar, frankly. It's about like, how can we help you actually, smarter is not quite the right word, but sound smarter, do the job better of actually communicating to people you care about.
Yep.
And grammar is only part of that. So these other pieces are super interesting too. And I think once you take that different lens, all these other ideas pop in your head of what you could do. Has there been any other weird friction in the process that you think like?
The pricing's a little interesting. Just moving from their paid plan, and then we had a business plan, and that was always like a little weird to like log in and out of. Maybe they fixed it.
So it's like minor account issue kind of stuff.
But I mean their pricing's fine.
Do you happen to remember how much they charge right now for a non
$29 per month?
That's significant.
If you pay annually, it's $11 a month.
Oh, that's an interesting incentive.
Business one with teams is $15 a month if you pay annually.
Okay, so let's say that you decide to pay annually, and you're going to pay basically what, $150 a month, a year.
Yep.
That's still like that's an interesting market. So do you think they're mainly going after still business folk, like people who are using this to like they make money off their communication in some shape or form?
Yeah, I mean, think about all the sales teams and just how you communicate with people. I mean, everybody's emailing in business. Yeah. So yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'd love to see it. It's kind of a little crystal ball stuff, but it'll be really interesting to see where this goes with the chat stuff and the social media stuff you talked about.
And again, like all the voice-based stuff and how that influences them, and just how they contextually get into these other products and communication channels is gonna be super interesting.
For sure. Any other big takeaways you think are transferable from what they've done to like another company?
No, I mean, I kind of just recapped them, them again.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, bootstrapping and then raising later, I thought was super interesting. I loved his idea of kind of what we believe with the big vision, small execution, but they still kind of have this bigger thing on the horizon of this world they want to create. I love that. The whole sell early, get some validation early is super powerful, and then just not being afraid to pivot.
So let me ask you this: I don't remember Max, Andrew, and who?
Let me take a gander.
So if we had the
Alex Dimitro.
Alex Dimitro Match is sitting in
name.
here. So if we had a chance sitting here, we're making them drinks. Like what else? You've mentioned the voice thing. Is there anything else you'd love to know about them, or that you'd love to maybe suggest to them, like if they're in the room?
I'd love to know kind of how they think about if True Tone is their answer to the human element.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just such a person of like, because think about this, right? Here's the big thing. So guys, if you're listening, which they never will, is if you're dealing with an angry customer, even like think about the contextually getting into Zendesk or something.
Oh, context
dealing,
is a huge piece
right?
of it.
So
yeah.
like if they're reading the email that is coming into you, because they could just be writing this email and be like, you need to sound confident. You know what I mean? Or you need to sound... But like if I'm just like, no, dude, like this person's heated right now. I'm not going to respond like, you know what I mean? So
man, context is super interesting.
So I would love to ask them with the True Tone detector, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
How far do you guys go with that context?
Do they? Okay, so just
because again, like you got the email piece of Gmail, but even again, like just think about Intercom or Zendesk or
oh my god, yeah,
responding your social media teams responding on Twitter to like someone.
There's like 4 things you just opened up there. So yeah, the whole idea of like even how you systematize like consistent communication across a team.
Yes.
You have some of that's like a lot of other pieces, right? Like DNA of the company.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
But the other thing too is.
But I'm just saying they could give a false positive.
Yeah.
Right. Like they could screw you up. Like,
do they have any sort of context things in there at the moment? Do they do any sort of analysis of what you're responding to, or do they know that like if it's a business email versus a personal? Or
I haven't
something
seen,
like
but again, if they're moving so much upstream with these teams and businesses, you know what I mean. You kind of have to.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have it, and even just like if this is your 3rd email you've sent, and you haven't got a response yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are they thinking about that? So
that's really well. And then to your voice,
the whole human element.
Yeah, to your voice thing, then maybe they can get to like the podcast version of it. So during our shows, we can know if we're actually being like
yeah, true,
accurate.
So
Well, that's actually I'm really excited you dug into that one.
Yeah, it's a good one, huh?
The 10-year thing,
cool story.
11 thing blows my mind.
I mean, honestly,
yeah.
Like there's a lot. If you're listening and you're kind of, I mean, even for us with Weave, but if you have your own kind of product or brand or your strategies you're thinking about with your experience, this is a really good brand, I think, to take a lot of good things from.
For sure.
And so. Anyway, yeah. So as always, thank you for coming to the experience.
Definitely.
This is a really good episode.
Yeah, I like it. Thanks for bringing the topic.
Any closing thoughts for you?
I think just that. Yeah, I think it's the ones we've talked about, but I think that I have a lot of respect for a company that sticks around, like does what they're doing. They seem like they're in the long play.
Yeah.
I think they're in I appreciate the fact they're thinking in a broader sense. So that's really exciting to me.
Yeah.
And if half the things you even mentioned are like, which who knows, like they probably have those and like 12 more on their thoughts, right?
Right.
And their radar. They seem like really smart
guys.
Yeah. So
anyway, yeah. So thanks for coming. As always, Clayton makes the drink. So stay tuned. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and stay, and we'll show you the drink. If you're not,
then you should watch on YouTube.
Yeah. Go to theexperience.fm. And you can kind of check out our socials and go check out the drink. But
exactly.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
See you next time.
Take care, everyone.
The Experience is brought to you by Weave.com, the innovative tool that helps SaaS companies automate their customer retention. As always, thanks for being a supporter of the show. You've had the experience. Now stay for the drink.
We're making an Old Pal. An Old Pal is one of the many riffs on a Negroni. And for those folks in the house that know what a Negroni is usually made with gin, but today, as you can see, we're making it with some delicious rye. One of the signature ingredients of Negroni is Campari, and then also vermouth. But here, instead of sweet vermouth or red vermouth, we're using dry vermouth.
Nice.
So let's do it.
Cool.
All right, so we have 1 part of a vermouth and 1 part Campari. So in that case, it's going to be a 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, and we're making a double since we're making it for both of us, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah, we're definitely both getting one. So I'm gonna double up on this. So 3/4 ounce of that bad boy, 3/4 ounce of again, and that's a vermouth. And as is generally the case, we move from the cheaper ingredients to the more expensive. So if we screw up, we haven't wasted all the good booze. Here we'll go with our 3/4 of Campari. And so Campari is like it's I don't know, it's one of those things that you either love it or hate it.
Yeah, it's strong.
Or you might find you hate it, and then like a crazy person that you've been dating for a while, you realize you love them. So this stuff's a bit of an acquired taste. It's an orange liqueur. It's definitely a bitter, like a Amaro kind of flavor. But when it's balanced right, it can be pretty amazing. And then lastly, our rye. And what do we have here? We have some Knob Creek, which is a great rye. And we're gonna do 2 parts of this to our other parts. So I had 1.5 of those, so I'm gonna have 1.5 ounces of this.
And again, this is 100 proof rye, right?
Yeah, so the reason this is 100 proof is not, you don't have to, but normally when you're doing whiskeys and cocktails like ryes, etc., you'll normally get a little higher proof. And the reason for that is when you mix all these other ingredients against it, it still has enough strength to stand up in a cocktail. So you still taste it and you get the flavor out of it. So that's pretty much it, those 3 ingredients. Let's grab ourselves some ice. And ice is important for a whole handful of reasons. Drinks don't work unless they're diluted properly. So if you don't stir them long enough, you don't really get that dilution, nor do you get it chilled. And booze tastes so much better when it's properly chilled. Not like chilled in your freezer, but chilled this way, because this way you actually get the right amount of water in it as well, which balances out the drink. So we're gonna mix this for 20 to 25 seconds. And some people aren't, I was kind of surprised to learn like why you stir drinks versus when you shake them up. And there is, of course, a rhyme or reason to it, believe it. If you have citrus in a drink, like you're making a daiquiri or margarita, or if you have egg, like a sour, like probably like a whiskey sour that might have egg on it, you're gonna shake those drinks. And part of that reason is to really infuse those flavors together, and it also aerates it. And drinks like this, or an old fashioned, or a Manhattan, you wanna stir it because you don't want the flavors to get totally melted together. You still wanna get some of the character of them and kind of blend them. And you also, while you're diluting it, you don't want to aerate it. You're trying to go for this kind of nice silky texture on them. All right, I think that's probably good. Let's grab ourselves some nice big fat ice cubes. Always go well with this kind of drink.
And then we're serving this more in like an old-fashioned glass, right?
Yeah, so they call these a rocks glass. And so we've got, and then what's nice too is the ice is kind of, it's just like anything, right? Like presentation's a lot of how we enjoy things. So having like the nice glass, it feels good in your hand with the weight, definitely adds something. Even having the ice here is partially presentation. It's partially, it just doesn't dilute as fast in the drink. A big ice cube dilutes less quickly than a whole bunch of little ice cubes do. And then lastly, to season the drink, we're gonna do a garnish of lemon. So here we're gonna basically grab our peeler. These Y peelers are amazing. We're gonna grab ourselves a nice big fat swath of lemon peel. We'll grab ourselves another one. And I thankfully washed our table here, so that's good. And what you'll do is you basically hold this above the drink, like an inch or 2 above, and we're trying to like spray the oil across the drink. You can kind of see it come out. You'll sometimes see folks run these around the rim. It's a good thing to do with an orange, but lemon's such a strong flavor, it'll kind of dominate the drink. So we tend just to drop those in instead of running it around the rim. So last one this, and that serves to season the drink. And lo and behold, looks very much like a Negroni. We have 2 old pals.